Um, Also, they call him the breaker of family curses. So, the sun sign is that thing that we can use. This is the conscious part of us, which can figure out a certain situation which has already been wrong for a long time. Like your father, grandfather, and his grandfather went through a similar issue. And you kind of inherited that. This is a very common thing. It may sound a bit like that I'm, talking things which are cannot be confirmed. Yes, it won't be with everybody, but in every family there is something like this going on, and you inherit certain good things and bad things, certain talents and certain troubles, and there is a connection between the birth charts of family members. You can see certain repeating things in your mom or dad's chart, and they will come back to your chart and your brothers and sisters' charts, and they can point us to what may this thing be that everyone's dealing with again and again. And through the sun sign you have the chance to break the spell, break the curse, and do something different, so that the next one doesn't have to. No, they would mess it up again for something else. But then it will be. And how does it all start? Mythology and astrology are very related, because we just use both of these things. They're symbolical languages, so that we can explain psychology. What this thing is about is psychology, not that much astrology. And there are situations when you are given a talent or a strong skill, but you misuse it. Somebody misuses something that's given to them, or you receive a gift, or you receive inheritance, or you receive something, and then rather than just channeling it where it needs to be, you do something wrong with it, basically. That's how these family curses start. And in mythology they say they angered the god. Somebody angered the god because the god gave, for example, Apollo or somebody else, they gave them something, but then the god didn't use it well, didn't use it for good purpose, but did harm to others, or wanted to escape responsibility. They call this hubris. Hubris is like being too proud and too arrogant. It's actually arrogance. Somebody was arrogant, we don't know about what, and thought that they can just do whatever they want without any consequences. And then what happens is that this person may as well die very happy and content, and nothing bad happens to them, but then the children inherit it. And then the next person needs to deal with something, which is, for example, there is this infamous curse in the Kennedy family. I don't know if you've heard about this, how many members of the Kennedy family are either assassinated or killed in plane crashes or things like that. And many things like that happen to them, accidents, and they happen in a very timely way, like when they were all at a certain age, and all the men in the family are affected that way. The women are not. So there is something like this going on, and it may not be that serious in your family. It may be something very small, like, for example, a relationship issue. For example, an arrogant, an aggressive father, a father who was beating the mother, and then the next one, and the next one do the same thing until somebody just decides to change it. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be many, many different things. It could be a hidden psychological. Usually these things are hidden, like what we want to repress in us. Like on the mother side of things, there are many women, especially in the past, that were repressing many emotional issues for the sake of the common good. And then something didn't get lived out, didn't get resolved. Then the next one needs to try to do that. So the sun, I went too much into this, but I think you get it.
The sun in the sixth?
The sun in the sixth, sorry I missed you. So I also have the sun in the sixth. I have many, many, many things in the sixth, not just the sun. Yours was just, I think, the sun and maybe a couple other things. The sun in the sixth is about service to others in a practical way. It has to give something as a contribution, whether teach somebody something or again build. It's a earth house, again material. In the material world, it needs to create something that then others can use. It's also the house of health and things like everyday routine. Also, it's one of the houses of work, but not work as profession, but work as everyday work. What you do every day. How is your day passing, basically? What sorts of activities? The rhythm of everyday living. And all sorts of health issues are here. There are many doctors, many psychologists, and people like that in this house. Or you can be a helper in another practical way. The important thing is to help others. It's the servant. That's it. Yeah. But I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes.
But definitely, for a sun in the 6th, it's a big deal what it does for a living. Because if it doesn't like what it does for a living, if it's not its thing, it can literally become ill. Because sick. Yeah, because it needs to operate on everyday basis in its own way. Sun is me, how I am, my specific thing. And sun in the 6th house is I need to work in my specific way. Sun in the 1st house is I need to live in my specific way.
Mm-hmm.
Sun in the 2nd, I need to accumulate money, possessions, things in my way. Yeah. But when it's in the 6th, it's just you have to find a job. If the job is not satisfactory, it needs to be just temporary until you find the one that you like. Otherwise, you may have a problem. There are so many more deeper things around family related to the sun, but the sun is said to stand for the father in the chart. But that's very general. It's not like, okay, let's see where my sun is and that was my father. No, it's not exactly that literal, but it could be very close. Because the sun is not telling us really what kind of a person the father was in reality, objectively. But it's telling us how we perceived the father. How we, because the same father can have a few children and they all see him in a different way. And the way we were affected by the relationship with our fathers. Very often we can see in the charts missing father which is not functioning in its way, in the way he was meant to function as a role model or a figure to teach you certain things. And the sun is like a compensatory thing in us. We either look for what we are in the father, especially boys, but also girls, because the mother is more like the caretaker, while the father is more like an exemplar figure, or at least it's meant to be. There are situations when they switch roles, and then what the sun signifies is not the father literally, the biological father, but it's more to do with who was the person or what kind of people influenced our growing up and our sense of boundaries, of limitations, of discipline, of what we are interested in and things like that. So there are so many problems that we develop later in life because there was something not quite functioning with the mother, father. It all comes from there. If you really go deep, whatever you're dealing with, it all goes back to early family environment. There are many scenarios, but those family complexes and curses I was talking about before, they are there. And the sun in a hard aspect in the birth chart with another planet, a red line connecting it, or many red lines, as with some people, or standing in a way that's blocked, kind of, or meant to be blocked, at least initially, will give me some clue that maybe there was a problem with the father. There are certain houses in which, when the sun is there, we can see some sort of a missing father, either died or went away or whatever. It doesn't matter. And there are those, on the other side of it, there are those projections, we call them, between parents and children. Now, parents, doesn't matter what parents. Where somebody hasn't developed their sun sign. Like one of the parents hasn't really worked on it very much, has disregarded it, hasn't followed his own or her own purpose in life, and just didn't do it. And then they have a child, and they try to either see that quality that they are, or make the child do that thing, this is called projection. So I project my expectations to my child, and I want them to become who I didn't manage to be, something like that. Or there is another scenario that the child actually naturally is good at being himself or herself, and we become envious. It's a very common situation. Many people don't like when they speak to a psychologist about problems with parents, and the psychologist suggests that maybe the parent was envious, and they're kind of even surprised. How come? How is it possible a parent to envy his or her own child? But that's a very natural reaction. It's very common, very, very common. It's everywhere, in every family almost, where there is a sense of why should the child have or be able to do something that I didn't manage? And it's usually subconscious. The parent doesn't even realize that they have these feelings. And the child goes to him or her with a picture, it's 5 years old or something, and says, oh, look what I painted. And they may say, well, it's good, but, you can improve on this or that. Or something, kind of subconsciously not encourage you enough, especially if you happen to be born with a sun sign or a chart, which is very different from the parents. And you have these other interests, other feelings about things, other opinions, and you want to live a life in a different way. Then they may try to, without even wanting, with all the best intentions, of it, they may try to do that. But the sun sign is always there to fight for you. It's like the fighter in you to go and actually do your own thing. Many other things can happen. There are so many things around this. For example, narcissism. Do you know what narcissism is? Where, some people think that it's being too preoccupied about yourself, like looking at yourself in the mirror all the time. But it's actually something else. It's not having a real understanding of who you are, what you are like. Because your parents didn't give you a good enough mirror. Because one of the functions of the parents is to serve us as feedback of whether you're beautiful, smart, this and that, and so on. And if they failed, they didn't provide that mirror, you end up growing to please them, or to escape from something, or just to adjust to something else. Or maybe they wanted your attention, they wanted your feedback all the time instead of giving you feedback about yourself. There are such cases as well. And then you grow up without knowing yourself, without having an idea how you're being perceived by other people, because you rely on your parents to tell you whether it's working out or not when you're little. And that happens a lot when the father is missing, because the father is actually the figure that's mostly meant to serve that role between you and the outside world. He's like a figure that goes out, then comes back and brings information from outside world, teaches you things. The mother is kind of the home maker, or the other way around, and then also gives you feedback of whether you are doing well. And if the father is missing, you have a void there, like an empty place inside you, which then later will always have its chance to be realized, but it will be more difficult. There will be problems with self-esteem, with relationships, with things like that, because you really don't know how you affect other people with who you are, or just don't have a good sense of who you are. And these are the things here.